So if you're on a local machine and you have the ability to install stuff, one of the things that you really should do first is check which version of Git that you have. Sometimes what's distributed for you is a version that's like years old, which in online tool timelines is ancient history. And so if you go to Git, there's several downloads which more or less will auto update. If you have a version of Git, you can always just git clone and actually build it. As you can see here, we're in my version that automatically is distributed. Well, let's get up, or I'll update first just to make sure I'm not lying. Anyway, it said that my version was like 2.17 or something, which is old news for some of this. Over in OS X, it'll get, no, stop. Fuck. Okay, whatever. Apparently it has an installer that it'll give you from SourceForge, and that's infuriating. If you want to re-download for Windows, it'll give you some nice GUI tools, and at least you can stay up to date like that. If you're over in Linux, then you can normally add a repository and then actually update, and it'll handle the versions for you. If you're on the Jupyter Hub, obviously you can talk to somebody to get a newer version of Git tracked and installed. A quick and dirty thing you can do is you can just clone the source and then create a binary directory inside of your local user account that actually has the file that, or the executable you want to use, in this case Git, and then you can add that to your path inside of something called a bash rc or a dot profile. Dot profile is also available on OS X as well. It's a little bit older, but that's all beside the point. Let's find out if my distribution has actually even given me no, I just have updates for AppPort and Python. So what I'm going to do real quick is, if you're on Linux and you have the ability to add a PPA to the path, or a package repository, or Arch Linux is always up to date. Gentoo is going to make you download the source and build it yourself anyway, except it'll do it automatically for you, which is kind of nice, and so on and so forth. If I want the latest stable, over here, because I'm on Debian, it'll go ahead and download that. And by the way, the whole reason we're doing this is because back over in current Git land, they've automatically configured so many of these tools, and in particular for Sublime Merge. It already has this set up for you, and what you otherwise need to do is you can create a .git config file if you don't already have one, and you can specify those merge tools here. And this is for Sublime Merge specifically. If you want to use Meld, I assume that they have some documentation and some setup inside of their wiki to make it work on OS X or Windows or what have you. But Sublime Merge has a free trial. If you're on the latest version of Git, it's automatically set up. So why not, And now I need to update to make sure that I grab that newer version that's out there for Git. And we're going to sudo apt. Can I do this? Yeah. And it'll automatically update, if it detects that there's a newer version there. And what we're going to do now is, let's go ahead and revert the merge we actually did. And let's check our changes, our conflict example to make sure. And yeah, as you can see, it's back to where it was. And I want to go ahead and merge my conflict example branch. And like I said, at this point, it might fail on you because you might not be on the latest Git, and you'll need to set up some of these using the git config tool, where you can literally set like git config -- global or local, or just leave this blank for the current repository. It'll find the nearest git config or create it if there isn't one, and say like merge.tool equals sublime merge or smerge, and then you have to actually set the command for it with the appropriate arguments here. Zoom in a little bit just to make sure it's super clear. And now, if you have Sublime Text installed, it's on the path and all of that, it'll give you some help, and it'll be dependent on which OS you have. It'll change the help based on that. So, where was I? Yes. We will now attempt the merge again, and we want to git merge the conflict example branch. And now we can go ahead and pop open that merge tool, and it should be default smerge. And here we are inside of a nice graphical outlook, which always makes me so happy. And there's so many different options here where you can start adding in branches and renaming them and doing some really complicated stuff if you need to. Typically, you'll never need to. And you can git undo, git redo. You can take some changes or some files and you can stash them away, bring them back, and start resolving things one by one with pop stash in some cases. And you can stash individual commits, or you can just start creating branches and then handle each issue separately to make the merges all happen one at a time. But what we're going to do is it's given us the local over here, which is the branch that we're currently in. Over on the right, it says, here's our remote, or the branch that we're merging from. And in the middle here, we have two buttons for what was the last common version of these two. And finally, this is the actual merged component. Oh, I don't have my settings set for this right. Well, whatever. What we're going to do is it's done this little bold highlight. And over here, it's told me that I'm bringing in some of this information from this branch. And what I want to do is on line 7. Let's do the exact same thing that we did before. Let's go ahead and take what was originally there and let's paste that in. And we want to keep the same behavior that we did before, where we keep that key and that sit, and we'll add components here one by one inside of an ordered list. Just for example, like if I had a file with some code in it, and all 3 of these different original versions all had some different action that they took, maybe I want to add in a conditional, like if this true, then do what was in base, else if this equals false, then do what was in local, else I want to do what was in the remote, or something like that, just for example. Of course, I want to pop that away real quick. Oh, goodness gracious. If you save the file, it'll apparently automatically quit on you. So give me 1 second here. All right, and we're back. Are we back? Yeah, we're back. And just real quick, I want to cover some other stuff you can do. There's also a git restore command that you can take stuff that you've edited and is already even being added to the commit, and you can restore its original with git restore dot. Pretty much discard stuff, and of course it'll tell you some help messaging in case you've deleted some stuff and you just really want to get rid of it. But we're currently running the program to actually do all of this, and what I want is I want what was in the base, and I want what was in the base and from here I want to start adding in the different portions in order. So that's that, and then I want this to come right after, because it's some different behavior. And you know what, there's got to be a way where I can change the view settings here, because this is impossible to read. Nope, it's going to make me do that one by one. All right. So, and then I want this portion on the line that had the conflict. And then, if I needed to, I can go to the next conflict. There are none in this. We only introduced one conflict on this one line. And then when I save, it's going to take this merged output file and say that that is my final version out of the merge of these ones. And now when we get status, it's automatically added the file, and it says, hey, by the way, you can, before you make that commit, you can go ahead and push these commits that you already have to your upstream in case you want, before we deal with this merge issue that's going on. And we can also stash this this original file that was in this branch before we did the merge and resolve the conflict, just in case. Like we can git stash save, and we want to keep the same indexing, and we want to include untracked because this file is untracked right now. And the index state is work in progress, and we can pull this back later if we want, and do some edits on it to name it a different file or something, and then push it back out. But I don't really care about it, so we'll just get rid of it. And now I want to git commit -am. What happens if I just do this? Okay, it won't set the message automatically for me, but we performed the merge of conflict example branch. And so, you know, this issue can also, these merge conflicts can also happen when I do a git push. Sometimes there will be big conflicts on one line, or a change in version history, where I need to reflow the git log in order to make sure that the ledgers can actually match up to each other whenever I send out to a remote. And a way that you can merge, right, is if you know which branch is being tracked upstream. So for example, with this branch that I'm on right now, it's tracking this branch at the remote, and you can of course do the git merge of origin master, some tag. Say you wanted to only do it one commit at a time. You know, we can so there's like a massive diff in between these two branches, and I wanted to get I should be able to git log for a specific branch. Okay, so I can, you know, find out where this other branch is, and how far ahead of the master branch is it? Yeah, it's not even tracking that. Let's say I wanted to merge just this one commit out of that other branch. Let's go ahead and try it. Check that out. So if I just keep everything one commit at a time, I can more or less, just add these files one by one if I really need to. And I'm going to merge the full commit from branch get toot into the main branch. So you can also avoid Git conflicts by just taking different commits piecemeal and adding them in as you need to, which is another great way to avoid merge conflicts. Of course, if we git status and I ls changes, I now have that hello world file. So of course, any commit that's on anybody else's remote can be taken if that commit has some files in it. Or let's say I add a tag that references 5 commits only for one file. I can just merge in that tag like prod 0.1 or oh, I didn't push the tags. And if you do git fetch, you'll get that update from everybody else, and you can can just pull in their file, even if they're working in a completely separate copy over in a weird branch that has a bunch of other issues going on. So that's about it for this. Thanks for bearing with me through one of the harder things to wrap your head around.